How's it going, doggy people? I hope you all are doing well. A little while back, I was asked if I could give some tips on using a long line with two dogs. This person has a big field, I believe, behind their house. They want to be able to take their two small, fearful, reactive dogs out and enjoy some time on a long line. So I'm going to leave a video in the description below where I show you, in person how I work with it. I just tied the end of it to my fridge at the time to show you a little bit more of a different visual example of how I work the long line. This is from, my point of view working with Adonis, and then you can see in that video, third person point of view of me and how I use it with my hands. So I recommend, I'm going to go ahead and play this video here. I recommend that when you're right here, you'll notice that I'm just putting on I always have a secondary clip on Adonis's harness, so that way it goes on, you have 2 points of contact. You have the clip for the regular leash, and then I have this little paracord one that has a little carabiner, and that goes on to the swiveling part of the clip there, just like that. So that's just something I do, so that way if that original clip fails, then I have another point of safety. I'm a helicopter parent, I know, but so when I come out here, I always make sure to take all the knots out of my leash. I want it to be nice and smooth. I hate having knots in the leash because I'm old school. I don't use retractable leashes. But so if you're going to be working on this and you're not used to using it, I always recommend start in the house and practice with just yourself. Like I do in the video, in the description, just tie it to a fridge or to a stationary area and just get used to taking the slack out. You're walking up to the leash, taking the slack out. You're looping it around one hand and then controlling it with the other hand. So here I control the leash that's connected to Adonis with my right hand, and then I take the slack and hold it with my left hand. So he's never fully at the full extension of his 20-foot. This is a 20-foot long line, just a regular web cord, whatever you call it. When we're walking, you notice that I have, he's probably out here on maybe 10 feet, maybe a little less. And he can, as he walks faster and as he pulls more, he can have all the leash that he wants to. But as I'm walking behind him and keeping pace with him, I'm taking in some of that slack. So he can have it dragging for a little bit if he wants, or I can pick it up if the ground is wet and I don't want it to get really wet and stuck on things. But I'm always letting slack out and taking it back in, and letting slack out and taking it back in. So it's enough work. Don't mind him. He's a little pooping machine. So, but, got both those bagged up. But as we're, approaching this bridge, we'll go back here for just a second. With a long line, as I'm approaching this bridge, I want to make sure that I would shorten my leash up, make sure there's nobody coming here. So being really aware of your surroundings, especially if your dog is, 1, reactive, and 2, 20 feet away from you. That's that much more of a delay of reaction you can have with them. So practice getting the hand movement down. Then you can practice with 1 dog at a time. I always recommend 1 dog at a time because 2 dogs is 10 times the problem. Not 2 times the problem, 10 times the problem. They can get tangled, all this and that. So work with each dog until they can comfortably work on their long line in, a calm area. When each dog can separately work like this, then you can try working together. I've personally never worked with 2 dogs with 2 long lines at the same time, and I would recommend, I don't like leashes that connect 2 dogs to 1 single leash. I think it's just too much trouble. The dogs can still get tangled. There's not enough movement. One dog will pull the other one, and it can lead to frustration. So I would recommend having 2 leashes. Now, 2 separate long lines, especially at 20 feet, can be rather difficult even for me to... I'm just looking around for my environment, making sure there's no other dogs or people coming on either side of us. So that's why the camera goes back and forth. But he's here sniffing. If I had another dog with a long line, that might be a little difficult unless both dogs are. My Shiba here is 11 years old. This was just, I know it says in 2018, but it's my GoPro. I haven't changed the time on it. But this is the year 2023. This was maybe 2 days ago by the time you see this. In February, I don't know what the date is, but close to the end of February. So if I have two dogs, again, very difficult with two different lines, unless they're both working like this. But again, you're going to have much more divided attention. You have to control each leash. You have to control each dog. You have to look in your environment, make sure that they're not going to, another dog's not going to run up on you. Here, Adonis is going to see a squirrel in a second, which I did not see, so I kind of run with him. Luckily, I was able to lock the leash enough, and, it was a squirrel on a tree. He's not, really going to go after it much, but if he were much stronger, I didn't have as much control. That's something that can happen. And again, with two dogs reacting, they feed off each other, and it's 10 times the problem. So being able to also have really good verbal control with your dog, being able to call them back if they're at the end of the 20-foot leash, or being able to tell them stay, or just, calm them down, or having really good, verbal control is also a huge bonus. And on top of that, you may wish, if you have your two dogs, to use retractable leashes, which would be a little bit easier using a retractable because you don't have to worry about reeling it back in. But with that, same thing can happen. They can get tangled. They can get caught up on something. You can injure yourself, just like with a regular long line. But with a retractable leash, I think they have an amputation warning on the leash itself, usually, because, it can happen with that little tiny cord. So I happen to have a very long, I believe it's 18 meters, or again, I could be wrong. It could be 12 meters. I don't know. I'm American. I don't know the differences. But it's a very, very long leash. At least 16 feet, if not a little bit more, for a retractable leash. And I use that with Adonis, and I do the same thing. I will actually pull a lot of the leash out and lock it, and then work it as if it's a regular long line. And that's just how I use it, because Adonis usually doesn't pull hard enough to reel out the leash. The tension on the retractable leash is because I've taught him to be soft, he feels that tension and says, oh, I'm not supposed to move against that. I'm supposed to just sit here and or move in the direction that it's pulling on me, because I've taught him to give into pressure like that. So if your dogs work fine on that, great. Again, you can let a little bit of leash out, maybe say let 8 feet out, and then lock it on both leashes, and then have one in each hand, and really making sure that you work with each dog, whether you use retractable or regular nylon or webbed, cotton webbed long line. I recommend the type that are like this and not the cheap. Don't go super cheap. The really thin nylon plastic ones, you easily get rope burn. They cut up your hands. I mean, trust me, I've had those, and I think they're really, for a little dog that's like, 8 pounds and under, probably not a big deal. But my Shiba is, yes, he's overweight, but he's also just a big Shiba. He's 40 pounds, 38 pounds. With him running to the end of a 20-foot, leash, I can still get rope burns with this one, but not nearly as much as the cheap, really thin nylon type. So just keep that in mind. We'll go back here just for a little second to give me some more time to ramble a little bit more and give you something to watch. But things to walk away from this video is, points that I would say is work with the leash, check out the video below, and learn how to use your hands with the leash. It takes timing, it takes feel, you have to develop that skill of working with the leash. I'm old school, so that's all I ever use is regular leashes. I don't use retractable leashes. If I do use a retractable leash, it's always on a trained dog, or I've trained the dog to work on the regular leash, and then we move up to the high-tech gear, so to speak. You learn how to drive a stick shift car before you drive an automatic or something like that, So learn how to work the item yourself. Learn how to work the leash. Then work with each dog separately. It's going to be that much more work for you, but if you want to take them out together, that's just great. Like for me, I always look at work and something like that, to a goal to work towards is something good, because you're bonding with your dog, you're working with your dog, you're becoming a better owner and trainer, and because you're working with the dog, you are a trainer. You don't have to be certified, you don't have to, nobody's paying you money, you're working with your own dogs, you are a trainer, you're training them. Just like if some average person off the street just came and started walking your dogs, they're training them. So work with your dogs. It'll be a great, bonding moment. Be aware of things in your environment. If you have both hands full, it can be a little bit difficult, especially if an off-leash dog runs up to you. So I personally always keep citronella spray on me, or vinegar, in a little spray bottle on me, just for dogs that are really, really their owners are not listening, but, I don't have time to talk to the owner, and I'm already known as the crazy dog lady. So if a loose dog runs up to me, I'm just trying to get the dog away from me. I'm not trying to hurt them. That's why I use citronella or vinegar. So that's something you can keep on hand, but that could be a little bit, difficult to juggle with. So I would say as soon as you see a loose dog in your environment, and you're questioning it and you have your hands full, just walk away. The best you can do is just walk the other direction. If the dog is coming towards you, start yelling to the dog no, or make a loud noise, or do something to startle them, like no, nuh-uh, start yelling at that dog, like, you're not coming over here, dog. I personally, I don't care what people think anymore. If it's between my dog and his safety and their feelings, or me coming across as being rude or, the B word, then fine. That's okay. I'm keeping my dog safe, and you need to teach your dogs to, be safe and reliable and this and that. So I don't care if your dog is friendly. Everybody knows I will scream at somebody all day long until I'm blue in the face. I don't care if your dog is friendly. Hey, my Shiba's friendly too, but not when a dog is running up to him. He doesn't care to make friends with your dog. So that's another rant, totally another tangent. But hopefully these tips will help you out when you're working with your own dog. Thanks again for watching. I do appreciate it. Of course, let me know if you have other questions for me. Hope you enjoyed watching little old man run around. He's a good boy. He's my good little boy. Go give your little critters a hug and a kiss, or an air hug and an air kiss if they don't like that, or if they're, underwater or a reptile or something, and they'll give you salmonella. So thanks again, everybody. Until next time, stay positive.